Hey everybody, thanks for coming to another episode of Adventures in Angular. I'm your host, Aaron Frost. I work with Hero Devs, I work with NG-Conf, and I'm a GDE as well. Today on the panel, we have everyone's favorite, Alyssa Nicoll.
You caught me at a really bad time. I'm like eating a carrot right now, but hello everyone.
I think you wanted to eat the carrot as you introed, because you eat it when I started.
I know, I thought I could eat it faster. You caught me off guard, man. You caught me off guard.
So Alyssa, let everyone know who you are, what you're doing.
So I'm an Angular developer advocate for Condon UI at Progress. We make cool components. I've always loved I like to call it the front end of the front end more. So yeah, and I'm here to just avidly love on Angular. That's it.
Cool. And as our guest today, we've got a guy who I met a few months ago and now I love him. We got Craig Spence. Craig, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Hi, I'm Craig. I'm from New Zealand, but I live in Stockholm now. For the last couple of months, I've been a software engineer at Spotify. Not doing any Angular stuff, but in a past life I did quite a bit. So I've been lucky enough to talk at a couple of conferences, got a few more coming up. Love the Angular community and keen to chat about some stuff.
Cool.
This episode is sponsored by Sentry.io. Recently, I came across a great tool for tracking and monitoring problems in my apps. Then I asked them if they wanted to sponsor the show and allow me to share my experience with you. Sentry provides a terrific interface for keeping track of what's going on with my app. It also tracks releases so I can tell if what I deployed makes things better or worse. They give you full stack traces and as much information as possible about the situation when the error occurred to help you track down the errors. Plus, one thing I love, you can customize the context provided by Sentry. So, if you're looking for specific information about the request, you can provide it. It automatically scrubs passwords and secure information, and you can customize the scrubbing as well. Finally, it has a user feedback system built in that you can use to get information from your users. Oh, and I also love that they support open source to the point where they actually open sourced Sentry if you want to self-host it. Use the code devchat at Sentry.io to get 2 months free on Sentry's small plan. That's code devchat at Sentry.io.
So today we're going to talk about probably one of the most important problems facing the world, which is packs of wild dogs taking over most of the major populated cities in North America. We're going to talk about what's up with New Zealand and the spiders. You guys have a lot of spiders over there?
Nah, common misconception. New Zealand's got like a couple of bad ones. Australia's got all the really bad ones. New Zealand's fine. Come visit.
Really?
Yeah.
It's an island, so the spiders didn't make it.
Pretty much. I think we've got like one quite bad one, and even then it'll just kind of like bite you and bubble up a bit, and then you'll be okay.
Your skin just bubbles.
There might be a lie.
I mean, like you're not gonna die, so just it's fine.
Like I think the most dangerous animal in New Zealand is like a wild pig.
Okay.
Well, that's dangerous.
Those are scary. Let's not underestimate them.
They're murderous.
More often than not, you might see like a little kuni pig. If you Google that, it's like the cutest little pigs in the world.
Yeah. I want one. So, Craig, we brought you on. You're an expert in quite a few things. I know you're an expert in NGRX. You're an expert in AngularJS. You're an expert with Angular. Spotify brought you on because of a lot of this expertise. So I figured when we were talking before the show, let's just talk about maybe some of the stuff you learned in your time with Angular and AngularJS.
Yeah, I guess so for a bit of context, before I left New Zealand, my whole professional career after university was spent at one company called TradeMe. TradeMe is like New Zealand's basically version of eBay. They kind of got into the market before eBay existed there. They expanded to do things like property and motors and jobs and those kind of things. Pretty New Zealand kind of institution, like very deep market saturation. I really loved the brand. And so I spent 6 years there between uni and leaving the country. And a big deal of that time was on basically a complete site rebuild of taking an existing .NET application and a backbone mobile site, trying to figure out a way to smush them together into one responsive experience. And that was about 5 years of my life doing that stuff, crossing the bridge from AngularJS all the way through to Angular. I think we were almost on 8 before I left. And so covered a lot of things. I helped figure out our test approach, our test tooling. I helped work on our component library and how to scale this across to a whole big number of teams building a pretty big Angular app. So I learned quite a bit.
How many teams?
So when it started, we were, I guess, about 8 of us working centrally on setting up the kind of architecture and some of the decisions. By the time I left, we were more like 20 teams across 3 cities.
How many people are on a team, just so that we can do some simple math?
Between 5 and 8 kind of thing.
Okay.
Cross-functional teams, developers, testers, designers.
A significant amount of developers, basically.
Yeah, enough to be having the kind of problems that you see at that kind of level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and working on an app that does a lot of stuff. So, you can buy and sell a car, you can buy and sell a house, you can buy and sell a phone, you can list a job, you can find someone to clean your car.
It's like all the same app, or they have like a bunch of different apps that do these things?
This is one web app. So there's a bunch of native apps that do a lot of these things, but from a code-based point of view, one app, one API with one version that you can't remove anything from.
Oh yeah.
Some fun times.
So I think the listeners want to know, what are some of the weirdest things people sold on your Trade Me website that you saw?
So there's some pretty famous ones. The one that kind of springs to my mind, there's a book that kind of has the top 10. And I think it's pretty close to the top, but somewhere in New Zealand's history, I believe the story is that one of the kind of captains of a rugby team, one of New Zealand's most prominent rugby teams, who was also a fairly prominent rugby player, had some kind of altercation in a bar and either got hit or hit someone with a lady's handbag.
Yeah.
Which eventually ended up on Trade Me and got
the lady's handbag.
Yeah, that was used to beat someone.
Did it get sold as a weapon, or did it get sold as a handbag?
I'm pretty sure it got sold as a charity item. So it kind of went and made some money for someone. I'm not sure. But that was a pretty common thing. The kind of big ones were things like someone sold, you can put a tattoo on my butt kind of thing.
Yeah, like their body space. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Advertising. That was like selling advertising space.
Exactly like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Lots of those kind of things.
Great.
Some pretty weird stuff.
Anyone ever auction like their own kidney, like a college student that's hungry? I mean, maybe your college students aren't as hungry as the American ones.
No, we feed
not
our
drowning in debt. That's good. That's good. It's your country.
Yeah, I think because of the Trade Me's position, they can kind of have quite an interesting influence on some like more social policy. So, for example, guessing people heard about the shooting in Christchurch last year. In the follow-up to that, we kind of realized that we're able to sell pretty serious weapons on Trade Me. And as a company, we kind of decided, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. At the same time that the government was deciding the same thing. So it was a pretty cool place to work. I really miss everyone there. They were really smart and doing really, really cool things.
And you just switched over. How you said they were almost on 8, so it had to have been recent, right? That you got the new job?
Yeah. So I finished up there kind of middle of May, jumped on a plane, came over this way, and then jumped on a plane the next week and went to Tel Aviv to hang with Frosty at Angular Up.
Which was cool.
Which was amazing. What a beautiful country.
I learned some things about Craig. The dude has serious, I would sign an affidavit. He has superpowers. So it's insane. It's one of those stories that if you tell it, people won't believe you. So
we gotta sign something on that.
Yeah. if you tell the story, 99% of people that hear it will be like, I don't believe it.
Okay, but you're like not even gonna give us a clue, like.
No, I'm not gonna be the guy that ruins his reputation.
What happens in Tel Aviv stays in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
We had a good time. We went up north with Yuri Shakir and with Shai Reznik, and we checked out the Syrian border. We went to Syria, bro, dude.
That's
almost Syria.
We're like 5 yards. Like we're like 5 yards away. I'm calling it.
You just like go up to him. Can we just cross over like real quick? Like just like real fast. Like just.
Yeah. They told us stories about how it's pretty. Like the fence was like it's got monitoring and stuff, so we couldn't do that, but we wanted to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went to Syria. I thought that was a little irresponsible of Shai maybe to take some tourists up to the Syrian border, but it was fun. It was fun. We survived, so it goes in the fun column.
I got my feet so burned with the Dead Sea.
Wait, how did you get your feet burned?
Oh, no.
So me and Mike Hardington, the tour after the conference, we were all at the Dead Sea, and it was hot, but it wasn't that hot. And so both of us took like our sandals off up on the beach. and then basically like ran down.
It's not that far. It's only like 50 yards from where your chair is to get into the water.
And it wasn't far enough.
And it looks like a beach.
But the sand was like, I had blisters on my feet for a few days after, I think.
Wow.
So the sand is like thick in mineral, Alyssa, because of what the Dead Sea is. It's like such a high.
Makes it extra hot?
So the sun just bakes it. Yo, I took my sandals off like 10 feet from the water, and I had to immediately put them back on because my feet were on fire. So
that was the hottest bit.
This dude walked 50 yards with no sandals. Insane.
And then I also managed to get my head under in the Dead Sea, got water in my eyes, got it in my mouth. So I did dumb stuff in Tel Aviv, but I still...
Yeah, there's like 3 things they said don't do.
What? Like, don't walk barefoot?
Don't put your eyes in the water. He immediately put his eyes in the water.
It was an accident.
He's like, hey guys, look how I'm floating weird. Watch this. I can float weird. And then all of a sudden he floated upside down and his head's in the water. And you can't clean your eyes out with your hands because your hands have the water on it, right?
So just picture me just bawling my eyes out in the middle of the Dead Sea.
I mean, like your eyes were closed. So like even with your eyes closed, you go under, it's bad news.
Well, they would have been closed, but I was surprised.
You under with your eyes open.
Well, I was just like lying on my back and I sort of rolled a bit too far back.
Who does that? I'm so sad I missed this. I was pregnant at the time and I missed this awesome trip that you guys did.
You did.
It was a really, really good conference. I had such a nice time.
You missed it.
So much good food. So many good talks.
Yeah, it was fun. Everyone should, if you get a chance, go to Angular Up next year. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope to go back.
The one thing I didn't know, which I have since found out, is because I've been to Tel Aviv and because I've been to Israel, there's now a few countries that I'm not allowed to go to, which I didn't know before that. Like, I think it's like a kind of passport-y thing. So if I really want to go to Syria, I can't, but that's okay. I don't really want to go.
I just applied for like the TSA pre-check stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I pass.
No,
I did put Israel on the list, but I'm hoping that.
Are you doing global entry or just pre-check?
Well, I did both because I don't know what the difference is, so I just did both.
No, so pre-check is like for when you're going through security and you want to have an easier time of it in the US. You can do pre-check and you get a shorter line. You don't take your shoes off. You don't take anything like electronics or anything out of your bag, and you just kind of go through and it's faster. Global entry, which does include both, is when you're coming back from other countries, you get you don't have to go through what is it called when it's like you're all these officers and customs. You don't have to go through customs. You just scan your passport and then get a printout and go. So that's
what I want. I want that. I want both. I don't go out of the countries often, so I want more the first one. All right, so let's get back, Craig. Let's get back. I feel like I tangented way too early. All right, so you're at Trade Me, you're helping people sell weird stuff, and you've got 100 and something developers, and you're building an AngularJS website, and then you got to go to Angular. It sounds like you're one of the daring people that went to Angular early, because you said NG Upgrade didn't even exist?
Yeah, we were in there pretty early on. So we fell in the camp of those who were kind of putting a few too many hopes into Angular. And so when the really big breaking changes started getting announced, we were like, how's this going to work for us? And culturally, we knew that there were a few things that might be a bit hard to navigate. And so we didn't want to get into a world where we had both AngularJS and Angular running. So at that point in time, we had teams who were building on the AngularJS website. They were not having a good time. Developer experience was particularly poor. The mobile performance was particularly poor. And we were trying to replace the old mobile site as kind of like a test. So that wasn't going so well. And so my team kind of regrouped. We got a space of our own in one of our other buildings and kind of just knuckled down and started saying, cool, we've built this thing now. We know some of the pitfalls. How do we lean on Angular? How do we lean on this new architecture? And how do we get to a place where we can deliver all the kind of goals that we have for this project?
So with NG Upgrade, like it does a lot of things for you. It makes a lot of things easier. And it sounds like you had to do all that manually. So just explain to us some of the things you had to manually do to glue those two together. Because I think a lot of us who get NG Upgrade take that for granted potential. And I think it's good to hear maybe from your experience, what you had to do manually.
Yeah, so we actually specifically made it so that we didn't have to do anything manually. So what we set about to do was to do a visual rebuild from the AngularJS to the Angular version. So
you built from ground up a new site?
Yeah, just built it again from scratch.
So no interop?
No.
Okay.
We knew
How
that.
How long did that take to get up to feature compatibility with the old one?
It was probably another year, to be totally honest with you, if not a bit longer than that. We took on a huge amount of organizational risk with that. We took a huge amount of, the trust that the other teams in the company had with us. We took a lot of that. And I think we ended up doing a really good job. There were definitely some hard things. I would say that the main thing that saved us was that in the AngularJS world, we'd already built out quite a rich component library. And so basically once we rebuilt that in Angular, a lot of the views just kind of came together. We tried to stick to some similar APIs for most of those components. That meant we could automate quite a big deal of the upgrade. I'm talking like code generation automation rather than, because again, the CLI was very new. We didn't really have schematics and stuff like that yet. But as the new tools kind of came along and got more developed, we started using those. And by the time the other teams were on board, we had the full CLI, we had all the schematics and all the ways you can kind of spin up a new Angular application now, along with this kind of custom test tooling that we built, this custom component library that we built. We definitely learned a lot, and there was kind of a lot of stuff to unpack there. But we managed to avoid doing an upgrade at least.
I think it's time for a new segment called Halftime Show, where Craig pulls out his guitar and does a little gig. He does a little road gig for us.
I'm going to find a little one because it's probably better. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah, get the uke, bro. I see it on the wall. Yeah, that one. Yep. All right.
Oh my gosh.
So listen, this is the first ever Adventures in Angular halftime show.
I'm so
It's
pumped.
the first one ever, yeah. We've always done picks at the end, but we never done halftime shows. So here's the first. Yep.
What do we got? Let's see if it's in tune.
It's in tune. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of something that'll make Mike Hartington jealous. Ooh, this is definitely not in tune. There's an Angular theme song for you.
Thanks, man. That's great, bro. All right. Halftime show.
I think apparently we're going to have some guitars at Angular Denver. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so that might be fun.
That's good.
Yeah,
Apparently it's a rock star thing.
I didn't know you were going.
Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah.
Are
So
you
I'll
going,
get to-
Alyssa?
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, should really finish my talk.
You know, the conference isn't, you got plenty of time, yo.
I know. I was going to say, you've got like days.
Yeah.
You have multiple days.
It's the same,
Once
same talk from Angular up, so I'm fine. I'm cheating.
Once you get the email that says you can check in for your flight, that's really when you should, that's kind of when you should start. Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
That's when you come up with the first idea.
Yeah.
I like the pressure.
Like we joke, but no kidding, some of the best ideas come then. Like, I don't know why.
Hey, dude. It's true.
I have like 2 slides I need to add. It'll be fine. And then like 50 I need to get rid of.
Yeah. All right. So there's a lot of strategies for upgrading from Angular to Angular, from AngularJS to Angular, right? Really from anything to anything else. There's a lot of strategies. There's the strategy of, do we go view by view? Do we try and do this interop thing in an AngularJS, Angular world? That's called NG upgrade, but there's ways to do that with, AngularJS to React or AngularJS to anything really. So you guys chose this path of, when we want to rewrite a feature or upgrade a feature, I guess, we'll migrate to Angular. And then I'm guessing you had some hard separation of routes so that you get folds page loads on those. Is that kind of how that would work for the user?
So literally for the user, they just did not see the site change for about a year while we were upgrading it. So because at this point we had 3 different sites running. So we had the original Tradie site from 1999. We had the Backbone site from 2012, and then we had this other new site that we were working on that we had started opting people into. But the feedback that we got was so underwhelming that we had to take another track. And so that other track was, Angular, real Angular.
So you did the close the doors rewrite path.
Yep.
When you unveiled it, it sounds like you had rewritten the whole entire thing in the new thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that works. Like, did you slowly introduce a certain amount of users, or did you just be like, boom, overnight? Like, it's this is now the new app.
So we had it as an opt-in for the people who were already seeing the new site. And then we had some pretty hardline goals onto what we wanted it to actually be like before we got people on it again. So one of the really key things there was mobile performance. We kind of had this goal of making it as fast as the previous backbone app, which was pretty small and thankfully pretty quick. And so we actually ended up going through, several phases trying to get to that kind of performance. As the tooling around Angular got better, our understanding of, how route splitting works, how route preload strategies work, how, individual performance optimizations for individual components works, how we can lean on NGRX to make performance better, and then all the way through to, cool, let's throw Angular Universal in the mix because we want it to be fast and we want it to have good SEO. There was these pretty distinct phases of getting the new thing ready and just kind of saying, like, you know what, the way we tried to do this with AngularJS wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough for our teams. It wasn't good enough for our users. How do we take this new, basically entirely new framework of Angular and really lean on that to get a good experience?
So why don't you ruin the ending and tell us how it worked? Like, ultimately successful, ultimately should have gone back to backbone. How did it go?
Ultimately, I consider it a success. So they're still rolling it out. They've got all mobile users on it, as far as I understand. We're talking, an almost 20-year-old company with some pretty change-averse users. And so figuring out a good strategy to introduce this at that kind of bigger breakpoint, it's an ongoing thing. And I was pretty sad to have to leave it, actually. I'm kind of still interested to see how it plays out. But to me, the more interesting challenges around that were kind of some of the cultural ones, like how you actually get big teams to shift technology, how you get people to, ultimately trust a brand new stack.
Yeah, because that's what it was, right? At the time, it was like, we're rewriting this.
Yeah. Yep. And honestly, one of the last things I did before I left was essentially sell the idea of shifting to Bazel and saying, hey, our builds aren't fast enough. That's slowing down our ability to experiment. I think this company needs to make a big technology bet again, trust the Angular team, trust that tool chain, and go for it. And so I kind of left with that ticked off, and I don't know what happened. So I'm heading home in September for a few weeks, and I'm kind of keen to see how everyone's been getting on. But as a company, they've invested really heavily in Angular. They got Thomas Belson and the ThoughtRam team, and then later when Thomas was at Narwhal, he ran a bunch of amazing training with us. We got to know Thomas really well. He came out, I think, 4 times to run Angular training with our teams. And so they've actually got a really tight shop of some really, really smart Angular developers just ticking away down there, producing some really cool stuff. So
that's awesome.
What's this cute logo for Trade Me?
Yeah. So that's Kev the Kiwi. He's a fave. He had a bit of a facelift a few years ago.
Like, what did he look like before?
If you search Trade Me old logo, you should see. But
okay.
I could actually show you because I have a tattoo of him on my foot.
Yes!
Do it.
Oh
Do it.
my gosh.
I might do this. Oh, right.
Happening.
There we go.
Hey, what up?
I love it so much.
NG foot.
That's funny. That's funny. So let's say you could go back to your AngularJS and you're going to do your upgrade migration again. What would you do different? What would you do the same? I'm only asking because a lot of the users are sitting here staring those decisions in the face right now.
Totally.
What would you do the same? What would you do different?
It's a really big question, and I've thought about it a ton. A question that gets asked of me a lot is, got asked of me a lot is, why didn't we build it in React? I stand by Angular being the right decision for a few reasons. One was that we knew we wanted to have a complicated, massive application. We also knew that we didn't have time or necessarily the cultural buy-in to hash out all of the decisions that you have to make to build a really good React application. At the time we first started, React didn't exist. So the initial choice was not even a choice. It was kind of Backbone or Angular at the point in time. And by the time that React came along, we had built up so much Angular skills in-house. We'd built up some pretty strong ties with the community, and those things were really valuable to us. New Zealand is pretty constrained for talent, so we probably knew that either way, React or Angular, we weren't going to be able to hire a whole bunch of devs really easily, but we knew Angular and we knew we could train people in Angular. And so that was a pretty important consideration for us. We had teams who were used to building .NET kind of MVC applications. And so that was a big part of the original AngularJS decision was MV, VM, or MV, whatever we call it these days. That pattern was going to be familiar to them already. Originally, even when we were doing AngularJS, we went with TypeScript. So we'd been using that with an AngularJS app, and that made part of the migration quite easy too. We already had types generated for our API coverage, that kind of thing. And that's something I definitely have done again. So TypeScript for us really solved a few problems that we just would have, had to solve other ways. So I'd stick with Angular. I think it's the right choice for that particular company. It's the right choice for building an application of that scale where you don't want to necessarily make decisions and you want to be able to depend on, the Angular team who are building pretty incredible tooling to build out a really big application. I'd stick with TypeScript. Again, types have saved me enough times to believe in them now. I really strongly believe in design systems. Obviously, things like Angular Material, which are incredible resources for people who are building applications. There are obviously other options out there as well. Things like Condon and all those. For us, it was really important for us to have a really strong brand, really that trade me look and feel that we wanted to be able to develop as the application grew and kind of tweak it as time went on without having to do big whole site changes. So the design system really saved us. We invested really heavily in testing, and I think getting a pretty good level of test coverage over the things that mattered. So I remember over the time we kind of swapped from Webpack to System.js, back to Webpack, and then to the Angular CLI, completely ripping out the whole way that our application worked a number of times with a really comfortable test bed underneath it. And so I think that test approach really paid off for us. That's certainly not an Angular specific thing, but there are lots of things that I'd change too. I think we made some big cultural mistakes. My kind of final reflection on the whole project was that we didn't clearly express the goals of the project. Like we as a central team knew what the goals were, but we didn't communicate them well enough. None of the things we did wrong were technology choices. They were more people difficulties. Communication and trust, and how you build those things up when you've lost a bit of trust by saying, "Hey, are we rebuilding this thing again?" We changed people's job titles. I think one of the biggest things we underestimated was how hard building a good front end is. This is a conversation we've seen play out a few times, but kind of the unconscious biases around front end versus back end, what it takes to build an application that is truly responsive, that cares about things like accessibility, about performance, about loading states, about fast transitions between pages, and all those things that are actually really tough engineering things to make. And we just set this expectation that people would just care about that stuff. And so I think we made a few missteps in that side of thing. Technology-wise.
What's the answer, though? I mean, just more communication, try harder?
Yeah. I think it's always more communication. I think it's about a little bit more bravery when you muck up. I think it's a two-way thing, though. There's a lot of forgiveness involved as well. Saying, "Hey, look, this has taken a while. Here's the stuff that we've got for you. It's not perfect. We want to work with you. This is a thing that we're doing together." Some of those messages got lost a bit along the way. It was pretty tough at sometimes. This isn't a unique problem or a unique story even in software. We lost people who decided that it wasn't the right place for them to work anymore. We made promises to people that we couldn't keep, and then they hadn't worked on Angular for a few years, and so they went and got other jobs, which was all really hard. But ultimately, it was an incredible thing for my own personal development, seeing what those failures look like, and seeing how I changed in the way that I was approaching some of these problems. My own understanding of change management, not that I can claim a deep understanding of it, but I certainly know a bit more than I did at the start. I think the biggest thing that I would have done would be just to get a few more minds in the room as soon as possible, more often.
Like when there's a problem, or just like before there's a problem?
I mean, ideally before, right? Like, we weren't solving particularly unique problems. We were solving a lot of problems. Like there are a lot of things to consider when you're kind of re-architecting an application. But sometimes we just kind of got in a room, the few of us, and just figured something out. And more often than not, we came up with a good solution. But there's a part there about bringing people into a solution. And it's actually a thing I'm learning a lot about at Spotify. So Stockholm and Sweden are a very consensus-based culture. And that can be really challenging, right? Like sometimes you might just need someone to make a decision. But one of the benefits of like actually reaching consensus is once you get to a decision, you can move forward really quickly.
Yeah, because everyone's on board.
Exactly. The number of conversations we ended up having to have, we were kind of reselling the same idea to the people that were going to be building this thing. It wasn't a waste of time. It was really important communication to have. But if you can shift that stuff left, do it faster, then that's something I would have tried to do better. One of the things that I'm really, really proud of was by the end of my time at TradeMe, I was in a team of what we called just evangelists. It was kind of a dev evangelist, dev advocate role, but it was entirely internal. So it was on us to manage basically the training of the teams, the onboarding of the teams, getting them up to speed, working in the application, but also kind of selling them on the vision. Doing some of that explaining of the problem space, doing some of that explaining of like, here's why accessibility is important. We can get 20% more people using our product. And if you're a business person, you say, hey, that's 20% more money. Or if you're more design oriented, like it's an inclusive thing. It's about bringing people on board, having those conversations all the way through to.
It sounds like you wore so many hats in that job.
Yeah, it does really.
Incredible.
I cared a lot about this project. Again, it was 6 years of my life, so I certainly wasn't doing all these things at once. I started as an intern and I ended up as a tech lead. So I did wear a few hats. I got to rebuild New Zealand's biggest website before I turned 30, and I sure as hell I'm very grateful for that experience, and I learned so much. And I think that's part of why I feel not obligated, but like it's the right thing for me to do, to talk about a lot of this stuff. You see blog posts about all the amazing things that people are doing, all the things that people have overcome and succeeded. Quite frankly, we just stuffed up like in quite a big way, and we recovered from it. But talking about that stuff up is pretty interesting, I think, too.
Yeah. It is interesting. I'm glad that you came on and shared this. I think that there's a lot of people who are the opposite of you, where you were like, hey, I'm going to adopt Angular way before it's ready, which I think is nuts. But I think there's a lot of people who are the opposite, where it's like, hey, seriously, Angular's been ready. React has been ready. Like, stop writing in AngularJS is all I'm saying. There's probably a lot of lessons that you learned that and maybe some courage from your experiences that people can harness. So I hope people that are listening that are still on AngularJS, you're really only a few really hard conversations away from being on a modern, non-legacy based framework. So if anyone has any questions, can they reach out to you?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I'm on Twitter. My link is a bit long, but I'm sure we'll get it out somehow.
Say it.
It's phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. If Frosty follows me, you'll be able to find me.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Maybe it's phenomenal. Two noms.
I think it's phenomenal. So the real thing is, and that's his name everywhere. So like I was looking through the NPM the other day, and I found this thing. And I was like, what is this? And I click on it. I'm like, oh, it's from the Phenomenal. So immediately I just created an issue and started talking with Craig on his really old AngularJS thing. So
hey,
yeah, Phenomenal everywhere. So you can
and
go
now
find
it's time for our guest appearance.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
So good to see you, Shai.
Good, Alyssa.
Shai made it.
Yeah. How are you, Craig?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Are you recovered from your experiences at Israel?
I am. Just. My feet have stopped blistering after the Dead Sea. We were just talking about that before.
I heard some stories about you and like how you endangered the lives of guests in your country.
Who, Craig? Yeah.
He said that was what he was told to do.
Yeah, that's what we do here. So what are you talking about?
When you dragged us across the border to Syria and almost got us shot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
That part.
Monday here in Israel.
Yeah, Monday.
Yeah.
What about the other days? No, we're talking about Craig's experience at Trade Me. Some of the weird stuff that they used to sell on the website. Sounds like they sold some organs and stuff.
Oh, and using Angular?
Yeah, their upgrade path from AngularJS to Angular. We're just kind of talking about lessons learned type thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Now he's at Spotify working on the same bug for 13 days in a row now.
Oh, I didn't hear that story. There was a 13-day bug. What?
Still going. So I don't know how much of it I'm allowed to talk about. But
right.
Oh,
sorry.
talk about
That
it.
just sounds so exciting. 13-day bug.
I'll tell you in Denver. Hopefully I've got it fixed by then. Put it this way. My Spotify recommendations are absolutely ruined because of this bug. And everyone better be really, really thankful.
I do love me some Spotify. So this is good.
They're an amazing company. I'm very, 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 very happy to be.
You just got like Patsy Cline and Dolly Parton. That's like your recommended list now. That's funny. All right. Well, Craig, I'm a fan. Hopefully people can go out and follow you. If you have any questions for him, Phenomenal on the Twitter, on the GitHub, on the other things, I'm guessing too.
Yeah. Instagram, maybe? Does people still do that? I don't know.
The youngsters.
Snapchat.
By the time this episode goes out, you'll have been in Denver. We'll hung out in Denver. And otherwise, I tell him to come check out your talk in Denver. But maybe go check out his talk online that he's giving in Denver.
At Denver.
But yeah.
We're going to be talking about Angular Universal and part of this big upgrade. So
cool.
Hey, are you working on a complex enterprise Angular application? Angular Bootcamp is an intensive 3-day workshop class to learn the basics of Angular through sophisticated techniques for real-world applications. They update the class regularly for the most current Angular, and a lot of the curriculum is also relevant to older versions. Or you can go beyond the 3-day class with help from Oasis Digital, the team behind Angular Bootcamp. They can assist your team or launch your project, including scalability, data flow, state management, service architecture, full-stack product design, and a ton more. Or you can contact them for a private class at your location or attend public classes in cities around the US and occasionally in Europe. Online live instructor training is also available at angularbootcamp.com.
So let's move on to the picks. And Alyssa turned her camera off, so I'm guessing she doesn't want to go first on the picks.
I'm here. I'm just feeding baby.
Okay. You want to go first on the picks?
Yeah.
And she's gone.
Here you go. All right, maybe I will go next, and maybe when she comes back, she can go. My pick is the OnePlus 7 Pro. Okay.
And
So
again?
Did I pick it already?
Yes.
I'm picking it again.
Okay, that's good. It's that good.
Yeah. So there's a feature on it that I'm gonna pick. So I read about like the Zoom hack where like your Mac, all Mac users, your webcam can just turn on and you won't even know that it's on. Like if you've ever installed Zoom, any website you go to can just turn on your webcam for fun because Zoom's awesome. But there's this, and that kind of got me scared. So the OnePlus 7 has this cool feature where the screen is like edge to edge. So there's no camera. There's no front-facing camera until you request it. I don't know if you guys can see it. It pops up right there out of the top of the camera. Yeah.
So cute.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, my phone, if it ever gets zoomed, my phone isn't just going to start like randomly spying on me because there's no camera until I turn it on. And I suppose I would know if it was on because it would just pop out randomly, right?
Yeah.
I'm also going to pick Chloe Condon. She's my pick this week. She's going to work with us at NG-Conf on making NG-Conf's next conference. And the theme of next year is called NG-Conf, the musical. So Chloe's going to help us get all the music ready and get our Angular parody well taken care of. So anyway, Chloe's my other pick. Alyssa, we hear you again.
Okay. So like what I lost, like I couldn't hear you. Like, could you hear me or no? It was like totally gone.
Zero. As soon as we said, "Hey, would you like to go?" We saw you talking. We heard zero.
Oh, that's hilarious. My pick was derivative. It was Angular Denver. I was talking about how I'm super excited to see you all there, and I'm doing a talk on dark patterns and UX. So yeah, I'm really pumped about it, and I can't wait.
Cool. I'm excited to see you there. Is Zach coming and the baby?
Baby will be there. Zach will not be.
Zach will not be there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because
All right.
the baby loves Angular, but Zach doesn't.
He's still on the Ember boat. I keep telling him that's not a boat anymore, but
It's a boat. I saw Tom Dale the other day. Tom Dale's doing fine. The hamsters.
did you hear him? He's in the background yelling, "It's a boat."
It's a boat.
It's a boat.
Are we doing NG Cruise again? I missed the last one and I want to do it.
No, he's Canadian. It's a boat.
A boot.
It's a boat time. It's a boat time. All right. Shai, you got any picks?
Yeah, I have a new version for Jasmine Auto Spies, the library I created. So
Hello.
link in the show notes, and that's basically a library that helps you create spies for your test automatically, and then you have like easy refactoring and all that stuff, and you don't deal with strings anymore and all that crap. So check it out.
Check it out.
That's my pick.
All right, Craig.
My pick is this trusty Fender Telecaster in surf green. I bought myself a new guitar when I moved here, and it's very nice. Everyone should get one.
Nice.
So Shai, you didn't know we did our first ever feature on the podcast. We had halftime show.
It was beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, Craig did a halftime show with his miniature guitar.
Nice.
Gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Played the NG rap song?
No, well,
Because you have all three of us, and we can sing it for you.
that's true. Craig, what did you play?
I played the intro to a song by Mr. Frank Turner by the name of If Ever I'll Stray. If Ever I Stray. One of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, Frank Turner is my pick. Frank Turner is an amazing British musician. He's currently launching a album which is all about incredible women through history, and he's actually running a podcast.
About the Angular, baby.
So it's all about the Angular, maybe, or what's it about?
The Angular
It's all about incredible women in history.
Yeah.
Got it. That's awesome. I want to hear it. You won't be hearing it, it sounds like, because you messed up your Spotify recommendation.
Yeah.
But maybe the rest of us can hear it. So, all right. Well, Craig, it's been good having you on here. Everyone, reach out to Craig on Twitter. Give him a follow. And
Phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Only 2 noms.
I'm really close to 1,000 people following me too, which is stupid.
Oh, come on, guys. We can get him over the hill.
Let's do 1,000. Let's do 1,000.
You will get
All right.
a raise.
We'll catch everyone next time. Peace.
Peace.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CacheFly.com to learn more.